Bibles. This is Robert J. Ray, President of the Organism Chapter 4, coming to you again. I'm anxious this time because the people in my society have asked me to say some things about what went on at the Capitol building on the 6th of January. They always ask me these things because they can't figure them out themselves. They see what's going on, but they don't understand what is going on. And they want me to explain the genuine truth of what really went on at the Capitol. And a lot of other people don't really understand what went on either. The first thing I want to tell you that it was an extraordinary popular delusion and madness of the crowd. I just didn't make that up. That's the book right there. I read back 20, 30, 40 years ago. This is it. The extraordinary popular delusions and madness of the crowd. Now this book here is tell you about all of the popular delusions that's popped up in the world since the beginning of time. And that's what most things are. They're just only popular delusions, which means that a lot of people go insane at the same time. One of the ones popular delusion that you probably learned in school was about the Crusades. This was a deadly one here, just like the one that was at the Capitol on the 6th. The reason that this was deadly is because the popes and the cardinals all over Europe would get all of these people geeked up to go over in the Muslim land where Jerusalem was and try to take back Jerusalem. They say, oh, the Christians being treated horribly over there. We going on this great crusade. And they would geek these people up to go over there, and these people would be slaughtered. They would starve to death. But every so often, the Pope and the cardinals and the Catholic people would get these people geeked up again to go and do these same demonic things over again. So the Crusades was a very good analogy of what an extraordinary popular delusion was, because they would get all these people. And one thing about it, once you get caught up in this delusion, it's hard for you to come out of it. It takes a time, and you only come out of these delusions one at a time. Like those people that was up at the Capitol, they only coming out of this delusion one at a time. They was all in it together on the 6th when they raided the Capitol building. But they only come out of these delusions once at a time. Now that the police and the FBI are catching up with them, the bubble is bursting, and now they're saying, I'm in big trouble. One guy even threatened his children that if they told about his going to the Capitol and that they were looking for him, that he would kill his own kids if they told. See, this is what these popular delusions do. They drive people insane. Other delusions in here was the magnetizers. Once upon a time, people thought they could heal people, and they had people thinking that they could get healed by being magnetized. They would have magnets, and they would do their little sleight of hand and their little magic tricks, and people would think that they were getting better. But they wasn't. It was just a popular delusion. Another popular delusion that came along was the witch mania. I know you've heard of that because they probably had a lot of movies about it. People would just accuse an old lady trying to live her life out, and some teenagers would come through and, oh, she turned 2 eggs into a chicken. She must be a witch. And they would end up, a lot of time, burning these people at the stake. Burning people because somebody said there was a witch. And we know today that there's no such thing as a witch. So, but people get caught up in these popular delusions and they take it to the extreme. This is what happened at the Capitol. When all of these people geeked up by Donald Trump to get in this extraordinary popular delusion and go down to the Capitol and insurrect and go in and try to get to the people that was in the Capitol. So whenever these things happen, just remember, if you want to, get this book here and you'll know what's going on. But it's always the white supremacists that's up at the top that's got all the money, they start these popular delusion. One popular delusion was they started that a tulip, just a flower, and they said this tulip was going to be worth thousands of dollars now, and people were spending exorbitant prices and spending thousands of dollars for a tulip bud. It wasn't anything but a flower, but the delusion was that it was expensive. They was trading it, and people was buying and keeping it and thinking it was going to go higher. But then when the delusion bust, it was just a tulip. That's all. It wasn't worth anything. But people had spent their money. This is what America do. It get people geeked up in these popular delusions all of the time. And that was one that happened at the Capitol on the 6th. Another one in this book was the alchemy. I know y'all probably heard, that's when men was going around deluding people into thinking they could change different metals into gold. And they would go in for the family and that wanted to see it, and they would do their little trickery, and then they would add some ingredients, and then all of a sudden, bam, they would have a piece of gold, which was already gold. They just fooled the people into thinking that they had made the gold. And these popular illusions caught on, and they would go on for years and years. But what would be the case in the alchemy is that they would come over and they would stay with you. They would tell you, well, I got to have a place to stay for the next 6 months until that ingredients is grown down in Tyler Town. And once I get that ingredient, we can come back and make all the gold you need. And people would go for that, and they would take care of these people for 6 months, give them money, give them whatever they wanted to do. And then in 6 months, they would go to Tyler Town to get the ingredients, but they would never return. See, people just get deluded themselves into thinking something is true and genuinely true, which is not. So getting to the Capitol incident, the genuine truth about that is that it was a discriminatory incident that happened. It was a racism incident that happened, and people got victimized because of it. They said it was an insurrection, but when you see that there was only mostly white men in there, which was 90% white, and once he got them geeked up to go down to take over the Capitol, to take your country back, at that time, the Capitol Police should have known then that it was going to be big trouble. But when they got down there and they started getting unruly, they were supposed to be protesting, but they had got caught up in this popular delusion and they went mad. And it's the madness of the crowd that does the damage. And they was busting out windows and throwing poles through windows and did that. But the Capitol Police, who were supposed to protect that sacred building and the people in there, they didn't do their job. And they are trying to hail some of these police officers as heroes. There was no heroes at the Capitol Police. All of those police officers should have been fired, should be up on charges right now, because they stood there and let this lynch mob break in there in the Capitol building and do all of the damage that they done, and they never pulled their gun out. And you ask yourself, why would you be wearing a gun, and what incident would cause you to have to use deadly force? You saw yourself what happened. Do you think deadly force should have been used when they were in there, had threatened to kill Nancy Pelosi and other Congress people in there? And they had the Congress people hiding in rooms and up under the tables. When would you use deadly force? I mean, and this and the chief, what his name, Chief's son, he was somewhere. He didn't even come down there. But if he would have came down there and used the bullhorn like the insurrectionists were, and told them, say, if you do step into this Capitol building, you will be shot. if he would have got his police officers ready to start shooting, wouldn't any of that took place. Wouldn't any of the lynch mob people would have even gotten into the Capitol, because once they would have came in and a couple of them would have got shot, that would have stopped that. They would say, hey, I didn't sign up for this Trump. I signed up to go down and protest, but I didn't sign up to get shot. But none of these officers was willing to shoot their fellow white brothers, you would say. See, white men, they won't shoot each other like that. But when it's a black man, they trigger happy police is then. So what happened is that instead of doing your duty, which was to shoot these lynch mob mentality people, was to shoot them, they wouldn't shoot. They backed off. They let the lynch mob come in and rifle through all of the desks and piss and shit in the Capitol building. Me, myself, I would never want to go in the Capitol building now, because it's been desecrated. It's been defiled. And, until they gut it out and build a new Capitol building, they'll never have to worry about me going in there, because it's so desecrated now to see that going on in the building. But see, white people love each other so until it stinks, it's okay. They let them come in there. And then you even saw one white officer when they was in there rifling through the congressman's desk and sitting in the vice president's desk up there. And he comes in there and asks, hey, fellas, you guys, what kind of policing is this? He's coming there begging them to leave out of there. Where did they train these guys at? And then they got one guy, he's supposed to be a hero. This was the black guy that was running down the hall. See, in black people and black men, they know that if it's a lynch mob after them and it was and they was coming down the hall and you was a black man, you knew that you could not let them get their hands on you, because if they did, you would be a dead black man, because they were going to take your gun and they were going to shoot you with your own gun. You still had your gun on your side and you was running. You ran down the hall. You wasn't supposed to move in. You wasn't supposed to lose any ground. They weren't supposed to chase you down the hall. They weren't supposed to chase you up the stairs. So, Goodman, you're not a hero. You was scared and you was running. You should tell the people that. But the white news commentators, they want to put a good spin on it, because they're white also. So they want to always make the white people come out of looking good as they possibly can. So they label you a hero. But we know that you was just afraid for your life, and you was running, trying to find where you could hide at. Now, we are used to this. As black people, we are used to these lynch mobs, because we've experienced so many of them. They have a lynch mob museum down in Montgomery, Alabama. Brian Stevenson had him and his team go out and find and investigate all of the black men and women that had been lynched by white lynch mobs. And they made a museum out of it. And they came up to Montgomery and they built the museum, and they have these big long slabs of iron hanging down with each person that was lynched by a lynch mob. Now you thought these people was afraid, and they were supposed to have been protected. They were supposed to have police protecting them. But just think about a black man in his home with his family, and this kind of lynch mob coming in there to drag him out of his home at night, to beat him, to shoot him, to hang him up in a tree, and then a lot of times burn him. Can you imagine the terror that they was causing these black people? Yeah. Now, all of these 4,000, which it was many thousand more that they didn't find, that had been lynched and burned and hung. The black race, have been experiencing this ever since they've been over here. This is the kind of mob that they've had to put up with and had to experience since they've been in this country called America. We're supposed to be the freest country in the world. It's supposed to be the promised land. But the genuine truth is it's the most racist country on the face of the earth because we got more races here. So out of those 4,000 people that was lynched, that they knew that they had to come and experience this type of mob violence on a daily and nightly basis, and then come in and get killed. This is why black people are so far behind. When you come in and take the breadwinner away, which was the man, then his family suffers. His family goes straight into poverty. They had one famous lynching down in Alabama. He was called, what is his name? Wes Johnson was his name. In 1937 even, they went and got him out of the courthouse where he was being tried for, I guess, assaulting a white woman, not raping her, they just say. They said he assaulted her, he talked down to her, or he pushed her, or did something to her. And this mob of 100 white men went in there, lynch mob mentality like it was at the Capitol, went in there, dragged him out, shot him, burned him, and hung him up. And people took pictures of it with all of these white people around, the kids and everybody around. And they would send postcards to their friends up north and everywhere saying, "This is our barbecue. This is our barbecue." What can make you love white people like this? And white people actually think that black people love them. How could you think that, people? White people. I mean, you have to be trained to love other races. You really do. And that's what my process does, is train. I was trained how to love white people because I hated white people when I left Mississippi in 1964. But my mentor, he trained me, he took me through it. And you have to go through some processes and some learning exercises to keep from hating another race. It seems like it's impossible, but that's what has to take place. And that's what I do in the Organism Chapter 4. So this Wes Johnson, who was lynched down in Alabama, they did go down and find his case, and they got him hanging up in the his symbol hanging up in the museum in Montgomery also. So now let's go back to the mob, the 6th, the January the 6th, when the white officer, Michael Fanone, he was up there trying to keep the mob from coming in. But it was ridiculous for you to think that a few handful of police officers could keep that kind of mob back. I mean, with your shields and with everything, you should know that you couldn't do that. You would have to use deadly force if you was going to be sincere about protecting those Congress people and about protecting the sacred place called the Capitol building, which now is just an outhouse right now. That's all it is, and that's all it will ever be until they gut it out, put everything new in there, and get that stench out of there that all of those white race supremacists and racist individuals brought in there. So Michael Fanone, he let them drag him down in the mob, and they was talking about killing. And somebody yelled out, "Get his gun and kill him. Let's kill him with his own gun." Now, he playing that role like he's a hero. Now he's done become a victim. and he's begging them not to shoot him because he's got 4 kids. And they did. They had mercy on him, just like white people going to do all of these insurrectionists and all of these lynch mob racists. All of them now, they had mercy on the white guy and they let him live. Because white men, they hate that. They don't want to kill these other white men. See, it's because they don't know who they're killing. They don't know if they're killing somebody that's in the mob. They don't know if they're killing somebody that's connected. They don't know if they're killing somebody that's rich or got power in politics. So they kind of fearful for killing another white man. But they'll kill a black man at the drop of a hat because they know they don't have any clout. So they use all they can to keep from killing each other. And that's what they did on the 6th. Not one white man was killed except the one that was in the mob and had a heart attack or stroke or something. And one white officer got killed. I think he got hit in the head with something. And that was probably accidental, but you never know. But the one person that I haven't heard any more from, or they haven't mentioned, was the one black police officer, Capitol officer, that pulled out his gun and shot somebody. And when he shot the insurrectionist, the mob mentality individual, and he killed her, the only thing is he didn't keep shooting. That would have stopped them from coming through that door. But I guess he's like so many black men, and like Goodman was, he knew that if he would have killed a white man in there, he probably would have lost his job. He probably couldn't have got another job, although he had taken an oath to protect the building and the people in the building. He just knew that it wouldn't be in his best interest to shoot another white person. They claimed that he was leading the people away from the Senate. They was already up in there. They were already had defiled the place. It wouldn't make no difference where he went to. They would have eventually found everything in there. So he wasn't leading anybody. He was trying to find a place for him so he could protect himself. So he's not a hero, people. Nobody in that Capitol building, police officer, was heroes that day. And the mayor of Washington, D.C., you're just as much to blame as the one, because you could have had your police chief send all his police officers down there and told them, say, hey, do not let them go in the Capitol, and make sure if you have to, use deadly force. But they're the same way. When they put black people in these positions of head, they know that they don't have any power, really. They can't kill any white people. I remember in 1960, early 60, in Meridian, Mississippi, they hired 2 black officers to be police officers down in Meridian. And they hired them, but they couldn't arrest any white people. I mean, teenagers would be out there dragging up and down the street, be drunk. They couldn't mess with them. They couldn't bother them. They see a white drunk driver wobbling across the road. They could not arrest these people. Now, what does that make? What does that make you? Would you want to be a police officer like that? And when they would come around to where we was, and at the ranch house where we teenagers hung out at, and they would come around and try to tell us right from wrong and not to break the law and to uphold the law and stuff. And we really didn't give them any respect. I mean, how could you? You know, we stroked them for at least, becoming a police officer. They let you become. But if you can't be a complete police officer, then what really are you? I mean, it's just a joke. It was really a joke. So I'm trying to share with you people the genuine truth about what happens in America. I mean, it's all just phony bullshit. I mean, the Congress themselves are phony. I mean, they don't have any black, real, intimate friends that when they leave and go on their vacation, go back down in their home up in Massachusetts or Cape Cod or wherever they go, they never invite the black Congress people to bring their family down there and enjoy what they have. They never do this, and the blacks don't do it either. So, what's the use? I mean, what's the object of you being up in Congress and you up there trying to play like you are not racist when your behavior shows that you're racist? America is a racist country. Just about every black person in America is racist. That's a genuine truth. And every white person in America is racist because they were born racist, especially the people in here in Mississippi. I mean, they had been treating black people like second-class citizens, lynch mobbing them, hanging them, doing anything they wanted to do to them, sending them to prison for I don't know how many years, you can't even count, and a lot of them were innocent. Like when I worked out there at the prison for 11 years, and some of these teenagers would come to my groups and third group, they say, Mr. Ray, what's the use? I got 70 years. What good is your process going to do me? And it was kind of hard to answer that. But I had an answer for them. I told them, say, you're going to free yourself from the inside. I said, they got you locked up, the outside of yourself locked up. They got those bars up. But the process is going to free you on the inside. And a lot of them did become free on the inside. And I say, then you can work on getting yourself out of here some kind of way. I mean, people have done it. So that's what I'm sharing with you people, that the genuine truth of what happened on the 6th, it was a bunch of racist white men who got together to go down and tear up the Capitol and to insurrect and try to overthrow the government because of the extraordinary popular delusion and madness of the crowd. That's exactly what had happened. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm trying to show you people what I'm trying to do for the police departments so that we can start there. And if we can start there with a comprehensive, systematic racism prevention and systematic racism recovery training professional development process for police officers and sheriff deputies, then we'll be on our way. When they get the training in here, then they won't be racist anymore. They will be professional, non-racist police officers that when they go out in the community, they will treat every citizen the same. If you break the law, then they will arrest you, or either they will bring you in to suffer the consequences, no matter if you are white or black. This is what's needed across America. And you can see that now everybody knows that there is a systemic racism training program that the police departments can have. But let's see if any of them try to use it, because they don't really want the racism to end, because they can do more evil and false stuff when they got white and black people hating each other. The police can get away with more that way. But if you had a police department that wasn't racist, then nobody that was racist could raise their ugly head up because they would get it chopped off. This is what has to take place. When they get my systemic racism prevention and recovery program in the police department, you will see America begin to change, because now you don't know who's racist and who's not. Therefore, you have to keep that racism down inside you, because you know that if you say the wrong thing to the police officer, then he's going to check you. So this is what has to take place. And another thing for the black race, the black and white race rationale and why these two races behave the way they do has got to be read at some time by the black race. Because that's what we need in the black race. We need rationale. This is the thing that white people hold over the black people's head, is that they have the rationale. The black people doesn't have it. So when they use rationale on you and you don't have it, then it's easy for them to put you in prison, because here you are, an ignorant individual out trying to break the law with no rationale. And so the rational people just come scoop you up, take you down to the jail, and then they go about using their rationale to convict you, and they sentence you to long prison sentence. And you don't even know what's going on. But here you are, you crying racism and that your lawyer didn't do you any justice or nothing. You know, because they know that black people do not have rationale, and they don't know how to protect themselves, and they don't know how to make it in America. So what I'm saying to you now is that we have to all come together to make this a better country. But it's some things that has to take place first. Like the systemic racism in the police department has to be put in place. In order for the police to be an example of how not to be racist and how to behave when they do their job as a police officer, which is to do it honestly, justly, and sincerely. This is what started it all, is men like Edgar Ray Killer, the king of the Ku Klux Klan, who was down here in Mississippi, who initiated the 3 civil rights murders. All of these things go to make up who we are today in America. None of this is in the past. All of that lynching, it's not in the past. It's right in the now. You never get rid of anything that's in the past. It's right here in the now. And everything that's in the future is in the now. That might be hard for you to understand, but you can see that racism is just as rampant as it ever was. It was just as bad as it was when you first got out of slavery. You was in slavery. Then you came into Reconstruction, where you was free, but you was still discriminated against. Then you came into the Jim Crow area, which you was still discriminated against, and you was still lynched. And then you went into the civil rights, where you was still shot and killed and murdered because you was trying to express your civil rights. All of that is still right here with us now. It hadn't gone anyplace. Martin Luther King, he's not dead. He didn't die back in 1968 for us to forget him in 2021. What he did and what he said is just as much here in the now as it was then. He was trying to get people to understand that you have your own rights, but you have to stand up for them, and you have to do it in an orderly way. So I want you to know that, like Martin Luther King said, you'll get to the promised land, but you got a long ways to go. You got some light years to go before you get there. And you have to be trained. And unless you get training by going through the Organism Chapter 4's process and learning how to not be a racist and learning how to become rational, then this country will always be a cesspool. That's right, a cesspool. I got one more thing to show you. It's the niggas' Holy Bible. That has to be put into play, because there's so many Christians that's out there now that just as racist as any of these people that was up at the Capitol there. Martin Luther King said it himself. that the most racist time of the week is on a Sunday morning. And that's when people are in church. Whites over there, the blacks over there. If that Christianity was about anything and was a true and good religion, then the churches would be integrated all over the place. But see, since blacks have a certain genius and whites have a certain genius, then they can't mix in the churches. So what does that mean? That means that the Christians, they are separatists. And Christianity doesn't put people together, it keeps people apart. I know a lot of the things I said will get you into your feelings. You get angry, and some of them make you sad. But I just want you to know that even though you can't stand to hear the genuine truth, this is the only thing that's going to save America. This is the only thing that's going to make America the country that they always talk about it being. The land of the free and the home of the brave. It's got to be this way. So from here on out, when somebody tells you something, you ask yourself, is that genuinely true now? Because one example of a genuine truth is that people say that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. And if you were to say that to people, they would say, oh yeah, that's true. That's true. But the genuine truth is that the sun doesn't move at all. It doesn't rise or it doesn't set. It's the earth that's turning and moving away and closer to the sun. That's the genuine truth. So you have to ask yourself, when somebody shares something with you, is that the genuine truth? Because if it's not, it's apparently true. And these things will get you victimized and get you killed, is apparent truths. That's all I have to share with you this time. And be looking out for my next lecture in the organism lectures on my infamous love lecture. That will open up a lot of your eyes. What do you love? Who do you love? And why do you love these particular things? So that's all I got to share with you this time, and I'm anxious to move on.